On this episode of Bits and Bytes, we unpack some post-E3 news, and we look at the benefits of cross-platform play. Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Jeff Shelley. You can reach me on Twitter at Sky_Striker. This is the third episode of the Bits and Bytes podcast. We just got off a bunch of ancillary episodes that we have done sort of for E3. So now this is the official podcast number 3. We had just gotten like 2 in and then E3 started, so we were just like scrambling. As always, you can reach me on Twitter at Sky_Striker with a Y. You can also check out our BytsnBites.com. That's BYTS, the letter N, Bytes, BITES.com. Look us up also on YouTube, and we also have a Twitch channel that you can check out. As well as if you like what we do, you can donate to our Patreon page. Minimum buy-in's like $1. Actually, all buy-ins are $1. That's all we got, just $1. So if you like what we do, think it's worth $1, please donate the $1. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start here with what I've been playing. So what I started out with, since Father's Day was last Sunday, I got Mass Effect Andromeda as a Father's Day present. About an hour and a half to 2 hours in. I'm not sure, like I still can't place my finger on exactly what's wrong with this game, but like the beginning seemed a little clunky to me. Just with some of the, just how it sort of was handled, like sort of the tutorial stuff. Just seemed to look a little bit clunky. The world feels pretty sterile and barren almost, to an extent. The missions are great. Like when you get on a planet and get to explore and do the missions, like I love the jump jets, and just how you explore the world and the combat and everything works. It's just everything around that sort of feels very sterile to me, and just there's just something not quite right. Like I loved the original Mass Effect. Mass Effect 2 I thought was great. Mass Effect 3 I didn't have a problem with. I love Mass Effect 3. Like all of those like really clicked for me. I was really in. I was really gung-ho. I was like playing constantly. This one with Andromeda, I found myself playing like for an hour, and then I'm like, I'm kind of done. I think I'll move on to something else. So there's definitely something there that's not keeping me as engaged in the game. Like I'm not sure if it's just my mindset, and maybe I'm not into a big RPG like that right now, but I feel like there has to be something that's grabbing me. Like I wanted this game to grab me, and it just hasn't grabbed me yet. Like I'm still having trouble figuring out a little bit of the combat system with the special powers and stuff, and how that works, the mods and stuff. Like I'm still trying to unpack that and figure it out in my head. But yeah, so I played about 2 hours of that. The other game I've been playing a lot of is Overwatch. I Twitch that usually on Monday afternoons. I just find it like an easy thing to Twitch. Like I don't have to think about it too much. I just get to go in and play. Plus, I really wanted to try to get some of the legendary skins in the last few weeks. Unfortunately, that event is over. Although I did get my Bastion Dune Buggy skin, so I was pretty excited about that. Yeah, so I've been playing a lot of Overwatch. Really nothing really to talk about there. Like I feel like I was a little late to the party on Overwatch. Like I tried the beta when they had it out, and I was like really into Battlefront at the time. And I was like, oh, I like this. Like I see what it's doing, but I already have something similar that I'm currently playing, and I have friends that were playing Battlefront at the time. So I'm just like, I'll just probably hold off on this. And so then I picked it up last Black Friday on a sale, and then sort of set it to the side and didn't really play it all that much until the winter event, which I played, but then there was Christmas and everything, and I was traveling, so didn't really get to play it all that much. Then with the anniversary event, I'm like, okay, I got an excuse to go back here and play this. And so like I was in. I've been playing like usually about 2 or 3 times a week for like an hour, 2 hour chunks. Really enjoying my time. I find like I lean more towards a Diva and Bastion. I also like Mercy. I think I do okay with her. Some of the other characters I'm not great with, like Black Widow. I'm like horrible, but I'm not a very good sniper in general. Hanzo. Very hit and miss with him. Can't really play as Lucio or anything like that. But really really liking my time spent with that and just time streaming and everything. It just sort of feels like a lazy, like sort of sit back, relax, and play a few matches. So I really like it for that. And so that's going to lead us into our segue, because there is some Overwatch news this week. So Overwatch released their new map. It's the Horizon Lunar Colony map. That was first announced back in May. It's set on the moon, and a portion of the map includes a low-gravity area. But the functionality will also extend to other maps. So when you are setting up a custom game, you can now adjust both player and projectile gravity to make a much different experience while you're playing. So if you're setting up a custom game and inviting people into your custom game, you can also tweak the gravity and have low gravity where you're jumping and like hitting the ceiling and just all sorts of crazy stuff. The other thing that was cool is I also have Amazon Prime. And so if you're an Amazon Prime member, you also have a Twitch Prime membership. And so the Twitch Prime membership for this week, they announced that it was a golden loot box, which is a loot box that guarantees you a legendary item. So that was really cool. So to get that, you have to go to the, hopefully if you're on PS4, your Blizzard account and everything is like linked together. But you basically would get this code off Twitch Prime and then go to Blizzard, log in with your account, and then enter that code in the code section, and then when you restarted the game, then that loot box would be sitting in there already ready to go. It looks like they also have some more loot boxes coming later in the year. Looks like there's, I think, 5 more in August, and I want to say there's 5 more after that at some point. I didn't get to see the exact month. But so they had all cool sort of, that's like been the first thing on Twitch Prime that I've actually been interested in. I know they had a lot of other stuff. Usually it's very PC game based, but this is the first time that's actually been something that I was interested in on a console that I could benefit from. So again, too, even if you have Amazon Prime and your Twitch isn't like combined, it's not that hard to go in and just combine the two. Just log into Amazon, and then it'll ask you to log into Twitch. And then it'll give you the Twitch Prime membership, and then you can get the code. So that wasn't too difficult. So that was really cool. Also, they announced that this week the Diva Police skin that was exclusive if you played Heroes with the Storm. I'm not sure what the rules were with that, and I think there's a Genji skin that was also exclusive too if you played Heroes of the Storm. Those are available like this week in regular loot box drops. I actually didn't wait for the Diva one. I like went and bought it. I think it was like 1,000 credits, which I had sort of saved up from the event. But I really like the skin. I think it's really cool. Like when Diva does her like dash move, when she like flies, the siren and stuff goes. So that's really cool. So that's basically the Overwatch news. So then we're going to jump over here to Nintendo Switch news and go to Super Mario Odyssey. Super Mario Odyssey just looked phenomenal. It was chosen with a lot of media outlets as their game of show. If you don't know why that is, just check out the trailer. There's some Let's Plays for like, I think there's like some 20-minute Let's Plays of like different areas of the game, like New Donk City. There's one in the sand area and stuff that I watched that was really cool. It gives me shades of Super Mario 64. Just how you're sort of unlocking, instead of like the usual stars, this time it's like moons is what you're unlocking to basically power your rocket to go to new areas. But yeah, so the new thing that they just announced with that, Nintendo hasn't really had too much word on it, but they announced that the game will be able to be played co-op. So how that would work is one player would play as Mario, and the other player would play as Cappy. So Cappy is like the hat with the eyes now that Mario can like throw out, use to attack enemies and hit blocks and things like that. So one player would play as Cappy. And so the thing with Cappy too is he's like invulnerable. So like if you have like a younger child or someone that's not super into games or maybe not the best at video games, that would be definitely an option to try to get them to play with you, is be like they can be the hat and just sort of fly around and take out enemies and stuff and not really worry about like a fail state happening or anything like that. They'll just keep advancing through the game with you. So that was really cool. The other thing in the news too is about Uncharted Lost Legacy. So Uncharted Lost Legacy is going to be coming out in August of this year, but it's been discussed now that the future of the franchise, even though it won't be with Nathan Drake. They still might be able to tell stories within that world. Uncharted, I'm just going to read it here. Uncharted Lost Legacy may not be the last Uncharted game. In an interview with Eurogamer at E3, Sean Eskag, the Lost Legacy's creative director, discussed the future of the franchise away from Nathan Drake and the drive to tell more stories from the thieving world, he said. I wouldn't say it's the end. This thieving world is huge. There's so many characters. Even before we settled on this particular story, we were exploring Sullivan, we were exploring Cutter, and pairing each other up, thinking what would be right and what would have conflict, growth, something new, something fresh. And Chloe was the one that kept jumping out. But to say the Uncharted world is done, I doubt that highly. This is great news for me. I love the Uncharted series. Been a fan ever since Uncharted 1 released, and the games only got better. I'm actually sort of in the minority where I didn't care for Uncharted 2 as much as everybody else did, but like really loved Uncharted 3. Uncharted 4 I thought was just phenomenal. I love that a lot. It's got a real slow burn quality to it, where it takes it a while to get going, but like once you hit a certain point, it's just like balls to the wall, like Uncharted. This is what Uncharted is, and it keeps that tempo up throughout the remainder of the game once it hits that stride. And there were sort of little hints of that narratively, and they just sort of did some clever camera work and whatnot to really make you feel that. So I'm really excited that they're going to explore some more Uncharted. I just watched, IGN had like but they had 9 minutes of Lost Legacy gameplay. That looked really cool. Just seeing how it looks like the idea of having an AI partner in the game, it looks like they sort of expanded on the uses of that, because it's Nadine in this game as your AI partner, and then you can kind of see her like fighting and taking out guys. She's like kicking them and knocking them down. Just seems a lot more expansive than what it was in Uncharted 4, where it was basically just reserved to like gunplay and then maybe a punch here and there. Looks like she's a lot more interactive with the other AI and a lot more helpful. So I'm really excited for that. So next we got some Rocket League news. It looks like Zag Toys and Psyonix are launching a range of Rocket League toys with relatable, downloadable content in June. So basically it's a collectible toy line of like pullback cars that identically match the vehicles in the game. So each toy is packaged in with a Rocket League ball, so it can be identified before purchase. There are 12 to collect in the first collection, with 4 rare cars, which will be offering like special DLC codes. So that's some really cool. That follows the announcement that Rocket League Hot Wheels toy cars that would be coming to the game. Here, though, the novelty is in the other direction of holding the in-game cars and racing them along the carpet. So that's our Rocket League news. That's going to bring us here to the topic of the show. So our topic for the show today is cross-platform play. There's been a lot of talk at like E3 about cross-platform play. For those of you that don't know what cross-platform play is, it would be like I'm on my Xbox and I can play with my friend who's got the same game, but he's on like PlayStation 4 or a Nintendo Switch or PC. Now I know Xbox and PC pretty much already have that going inclusively within themselves, but there's been a lot of talk at E3 about trying to get PlayStation on board. Rocket League itself had announced that the Nintendo Switch version of the game, which is coming out, you'll be able to play against people on Xbox and on PC. But Sony has been pretty against it, and on the topic today is we're just going to discuss some benefits of what we think that is. So I'm not sure what the technical limitations are. All I know is that Jeremy Dunham, basically who works for Psyonix, basically had this quote where he said, "Technically, I could make a phone call to Psyonix right now, and it, being the PS4 crossplay, would be up and running before you left the room. The problem is just the political barrier that prevents it from happening." So that just goes to show that they have it worked out. Like, they know what they have to do, and it's basically ready to go. So they're just waiting on the okay from Sony to say, okay, we'll allow cross-platform play. As I bump my mic, now in an interview then with Eurogamer, Jim Ryan, the head of global sales and marketing for PlayStation, basically defended Sony's stance to block cross-platform play. He said that we have a contract with the people who go online with us, that we look after them, and they are within the PlayStation curated universe. Exposing what in many cases are children to external influences, we have no ability to manage or look after if it's something we have to think about very carefully. So Sony's basically saying, hey, we're doing this to, protect the children from seeing like bad things on the internet, which I don't know. I feel like that's the stance for just not wanting to do it. It's like, well, we're just not doing it for the children. It's a very generic stance, and also the thing that it just doesn't hold up. And the reason this doesn't hold up is like Nintendo, one of the most family-oriented, basically the most family-oriented video game company, is allowing this. It's basically Nintendo's okay with it. So if Nintendo's okay with it, why isn't Sony okay with it? And I just don't know why. If Nintendo's okay with it, Nintendo's always been the one to protect the children and really have family focus and really protect that. For Sony to come out and say that is sort of a cop-out. So I think some of the benefits of cross-platform play is it builds a better community around the game. So finally, all these players that are playing Rocket League or Final Fantasy 14 or any sort of online game like Overwatch or something like that. Finally, all these players are able to talk and communicate with one another, and I just think it unites the community even better and gives you more options to play and just makes the pool better. You wouldn't have to wait for games as long. It just overall it's better, and it makes your choice of platform more of a personal choice. Instead of trying to figure out, well, what are my friends going to play? So-and-so's getting an Xbox One. I should get an Xbox One because that's what he has to play on, and I want to play online with him. I mean, it really takes that out of the equation altogether and makes it more what do I prefer? Do I prefer the Sony infrastructure and it's not even really about network infrastructure anymore. It's do I just prefer Sony exclusives? Do I just want the PlayStation exclusives? And for my third-party games like Overwatch and stuff, can I just have them and still be able to play with my friends online on Xbox or PC or whatever? I just think that it's like a no-brainer that this should just happen. It just gives that much more power to the consumer. It's basically putting the power back, giving the power back to the consumer to decide what they want. And just makes it sort of more of a console agnostic, where it doesn't matter if you're an Xbox or a Sony fanboy. Everybody's still playing the same game with each other. It just doesn't matter anymore. And it's kind of shocking that Sony is so anti this, being that they have the lead right now, and they also have more exclusives. If anybody would be against this, you think it would be Microsoft, because Microsoft doesn't have the exclusives to keep people on their console. They just don't. They had Quantum Break, Sunset Overdrive. They got Crackdown 3 coming out, but they really don't have the amount of exclusives that Sony has rolling out to keep people on their platform. And I know some people say exclusives don't matter anymore, and it really didn't matter last generation. I mean, I think it did. I think if Sony didn't have the exclusives that they had, they wouldn't have caught up to 360 in the way that they did. So I'm just calling Sony out for basically just a cop-out answer on defending the children when I think it's basically them trying to defend their bottom line, which I don't know why they don't want to do this. Is there something in their network infrastructure that's not quite up to snuff that could possibly become a big problem and reflect poorly back on them, or are they just trying to protect their bottom line by keeping people on their console and not being like, oh, it's okay, I can buy an Xbox and still play with my friends on PlayStation. I don't need to get the PlayStation 4 if I prefer Xbox that much more. So that's just something to think about. I think I'm going to write an article next week that'll go up on the site, BytsnBites.com, sort of going over the cons and the pros of cross-platform play. So look for that next week. That'll be up on the site. So we don't have any new releases today because I forgot to write them down. So we're just going to skip right over that like it didn't even happen. And so that'll bring us to the end of the show. And so the end of the show, we go with Friendly Fire. So Friendly Fire, if you haven't listened to the show before, Friendly Fire is where we pick somebody from the gaming community and we just give them like props and just give them a, sort of a virtual high five. I don't know if I like that term, but we just sort of give them some props. So today I'm going to pick Greg Miller from Kinda Funny. I respect Greg Miller a lot. Like I always valued his input on games. I always really liked his reviews when he was giving written reviews. Even now he does sort of like verbal sit-down reviews for his podcast and stuff. It's really, really good. Really cool dude, comic book fan, really into Superman. He's a foodie. Just a really kind guy too. The community that they build at Kinda Funny is sort of, I feel like, sort of a reflection of how Greg is. It's very all-inclusive, all-encompassing. They don't really allow trolls or anything on the internet. Everybody's always friendly and cordial with one another and very supportive of what each individual does. And so I think just give Greg Miller like a high five. He's making the internet a better place. And, the internet sort of needs that. Like, the internet for a while has been sort of mean-spirited and can get mean-spirited at times. And it's always nice when someone is just bringing kindness and stuff into such a dark place. And I think, overall, we're getting better. I think we've definitely matured as a community. And I think that shows, too, at places like Kinda Funny. And I think we got What's Good Games now as well from like Andrea Rain and them. So I think we really are maturing as a space for people to actually not hate on each other and sort of give more support to. So just good job, Greg. Keep being you, doing great. We're going to end the show with that and move on to just our goodbyes. This is Jeff Shelley. You can reach me on Twitter at Sky_Striker with a Y. Check out our Twitch channel, Bits and Bytes. Check out our YouTube page. Same thing, Bits and Bytes. I'm going to say Bits and Bytes a lot. Bits and Bytes, Bits and Bytes. Check us out on Patreon, Bits and Bytes. So thank you. This was episode 3 of the podcast. I feel like I'm getting a little more comfortable talking. Still had some awkward things because my notes were not well. Normally I write my notes completely out. This time I just copied and pasted a lot from different articles, so I was sort of in a rush because I've been writing a lot of other things lately. Hopefully I can tell you about that in the future. But for Bits and Bytes, this is Jeff Shelley signing off. Thank you for listening. If you like what we do, go to Patreon, donate $1, and thank you, and have a good rest of your week.